Hi, everyone. I'm Jaya, and this afternoon we have a really special presenter. Her name is Casey, and she is Director of Recruitment at Pioneers. And I'm so excited to introduce her. I hope you guys have had a great morning and afternoon. I hope you guys grabbed lunch, had a good brainstorming session, got some brain food. And so now we're going to hear quickly about who are the unreached. A lot of our projects are related to addressing the needs of presenting the gospel to unreached people groups. And so we just wanted to hear a bit more about who are unreached people groups and how do we go about reaching them and what is the work being done. So this is Casey.
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Really good.
Good. Thanks for having me. It's really good to be here.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, so can I take it away?
Yeah, go for it. So I'm gonna
Okay, how many people, since I can't see everyone, I'm just curious how many people are on the...
Well, we have about, we have between 30 and 40 people maybe involved in the hackathon, so.
Okay, cool, awesome. Yeah. Well, it's really good to be here. So you guys can see my PowerPoint, right?
Right now we're looking at the StreamYard.
Oh no, okay, hold on. Give me just a sec then. I guess I clicked the wrong thing. Sorry about that. Okay. Stop share. There it is. Okay, can you see?
Now I can see it.
Great. Is it, there we go. Is it big now? Okay.
Yes.
Does anything change when I do this?
Now,
you can see
now we're seeing two screens at once.
Oh, okay. Gotcha, the two slides?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then I need to do that, I think, and then do this. Okay, sorry, that normally works, so I don't know. Oh, well, here we go.
Okay,
thanks. Great. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Casey Green, and I, like Jaya said, I serve on the recruitment team with Pioneers. We just last year in 2019, we celebrated our 40th anniversary as an organization. And I'm just really excited. I was really excited to hear from Jay about how you guys are using your gifts in with technology to serve missions and God's the advancement of His gospel. So I'm going to share a little bit more about Pioneers, like Jaya said, and then a little bit of my story too. So I joined Pioneers in 2017, and Lord willing, would really like to serve overseas with them one day in the future. And so for me, it was, God had been already putting and stirring in my heart a desire to just pursue unreached people groups. And that's something that Pioneers is all about. Pioneers is about relentlessly pursuing God's glory among the unreached. And for me, I was 12 or 13 years old, I think, at the time when I first learned that there were still people groups in the world who don't know Jesus and have never even heard of him and don't have a Bible in their language, etc. And for me, at that age, I was really shocked and honestly a little bit angry, even at the global capital C church, just that we, by the 21st century, had not yet fulfilled and completed the Great Commission. But I was pretty ignorant about like the complexities of unreached people groups that surround unreached people groups. But I did know, like, we have the resources, the manpower. This is a 21st century. We should be, why hasn't this been completed yet? And so it was a little bit later when I was 17 that I learned really that God's desire for all people groups to know him started all the way back in Genesis. And in Genesis chapter 12, when you're probably familiar with the story, God is making his covenant with Abram for the first time. And God says to Abram, I will bless you so that you will be a blessing, and in you all the peoples of the earth shall be blessed. And this so that clause indicates a purpose statement. It shows that God's heart and his purpose is for all peoples to be blessed. There's not a single people group on this planet that his heart doesn't yearn for. And so what is the blessing that God wants all people groups to receive? Well, we see in scripture and all the way in Revelation, it's Jesus Christ himself. After this, I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. So we see God's heart is for all peoples. And so for me, I remember where I was sitting when I first heard this, and I remember who was speaking. And I remember it just felt like something clicked for me, like something, like my heart, all the passion that I had was connected with my mind in a new way, just really seeing this was and is and always has been God's heart from the very beginning. And yet at the same time, I felt like I could look around and see believers who didn't seem to like have the same goal of trying to help the Lord fulfill this mission, this great commission. And so for me at that moment, I knew I was like interested in missions, but for me it was like, okay, the unreached or bust. I don't want to just do missions. I felt like I couldn't not go to an unreached people group. So before we go to the video, I have a video I want to share with you guys. One thing I've seen in the church is there's just a lack of awareness that we are missing. I don't think we're lacking manpower, money, or resources, but education and awareness is something that people just aren't even familiar with the terms of lost and unreached. And so I am going to share this next video with you. It's a few minutes long, and I would love for you guys to really look for the distinctives, like what defines the term unreached people.
I don't think we can hear the audio.
Oh no. I hit the button. Oh, I bet it's, let me try this. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
Does this help?
We still can't quite hear it.
If I turn it way up, can you?
Aren't followers of Jesus. But where
Yes. Oh, okay, good. I'm gonna start it over. All right, thanks for telling me.
Running Christian circles, you've probably heard people talk about the lost and the unreached. These are two common terms that Christians use to describe people who aren't followers of Jesus. But where do they see this? Lost.
The audio is still a bit hard to hear.
What?
The audio is still a bit hard to hear.
Um,
You want to try sharing your screen again? And then sometimes there's like a little checkbox.
Yeah, I did check that, but I will do it again. Maybe I forgot the second time. All right. Thanks. Stop sharing. This just goes to show I am not as technically technologically.
No worries, we have had so many of the same troubles.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that makes me feel a little bit better. All right, share audio. All right, trying again.
I think it's a little bit hard to hear.
Really?
Yeah. It's just kind of broken up. Like we can hear it, but it's really choppy.
Okay. Well, then we can just skip it, I guess.
Sorry about that.
No, I apologize. I thought that worked the other day when we tried, but
I thought it did too. I don't know why it's not working this time.
yeah. Oh well, that's okay. Well, if you had been able to watch the video, then you would have heard her define unreached people groups as those who require outside assistance for the gospel to advance. So percentage-wise, unreached people groups have less than 2% of evangelical believers in their population. And so, yeah, they need outside assistance. So the good news is there is 17,000 people groups in the world. And people groups, by people groups, I mean groups of people who share a common language, worldview, and culture. And so there's 17,000 of them in our world today. And the good news is that 10,000 of them are reached. They have access to Jesus. They at least know about him or can know about him if they want to. But the bad news is there's still 7,000 people groups who have little to no access of the gospel and of Jesus Christ. And that equates to about 42.2% of the entire world, which is pretty high. For me, when I heard that number, I was just shocked at how high that is. And you might think, if you were like me anyways, I would think that with this information out there, that there would probably be more Christians willing to be missionaries and to go. And sadly, you would be wrong. Let this number sink in. There are 78,000 evangelical Christians in the world for every entire unreached people group. 78,000 evangelical Christians for every unreached people group. And so then maybe you'd be tempted to think, okay, well, if there's not that many Christians going as missionaries, well, then maybe at least those missionaries who are going will go to the unreached, right? Sadly, again, you would be wrong. In the video, she mentions that less than 10% of existing missionaries are working among unreached people groups. 90% of current missionaries are working in places where they already have the gospel, which isn't to say that there aren't workers needed. It just shows that there's an extremely great imbalance in our world missions today. And so, yeah, one missionary per 216,000 unreached people. And of the 7,000 unreached people groups, 3,200 of them are called unengaged. And unengaged people groups are a subcategory of unreached people. And that means, so we said unreached people are defined by less than 2%, while unengaged is literally 0%. There are 0 known believers and 0 known churches or evangelical witness among them. So there's 3,200 unengaged people groups across the world. So there's obviously still work to be done. And so among the unreached in the world, they're pretty much broken up into 5 different religious worldviews, religious blocks. So pictured here on the far left represents tribal or animist people groups. Then next is Hindu peoples. In the center, atheists or unreligious, like places like China. Next, Muslim, and then lastly, on the far right, Buddhist. And so you can easily remember these religious blocks by the acronym THUM: tribal, Hindu, unreligious, Muslim, and Buddhist. And Pioneers has teams working in each of these different religious contexts around the world. And so there's so many great missions organizations out there. For me, by the time I knew, okay, I want to work among an unreached people group, I know I don't want to go alone because I don't feel qualified, but I know I have the passion and I want to go and the burden. And so then often missionaries are are tasked with looking at, okay, who am I going to go with? And so there's a lot of awesome organizations out there, but our core values are what make Pioneers unique and distinct. And so first we have passion for God. This one might sound obvious, but we want it just to be really clear for all of our workers and people who learn about us that that is our number one focus. Sometimes in missions and ministry, if you've ever done any kind of ministry, you might be aware of this, but it's really easy for compassion for people and the lost to take priority. But we know at Pioneers that will burn us out as workers on the field. That is passion for God alone that fuels us. John Piper, one of my favorite John Piper quotes, if you like him, is missions exists because worship doesn't. And so missions is all about God receiving the worship that he's due. And so we always want to keep that first. Next, we're team-centered. This one especially meant a lot to me as a single woman, just wanting to not be alone. I'm an extrovert. I have a lot of friends. I like people. And so I knew if I was the only person only believer that I knew overseas, I would probably die. So Pioneers is all about mobilizing teams to be sent out to work among unreached peoples. Just so you have that community aspect that we believe everybody thrives better and more in community. Next is the local church, and this is a core value that's twofold. First of all, we really believe that it's the church biblically that sends out. We see that in Acts 13 when the church sends out Saul and Barnabas on their first missions journey. And so we don't want to replace the job of the church. So we want to partner with churches in mobilizing missionaries and teams. And then this also, the other half of this core value is seen on the field with local churches. So as we are working to build up a local church overseas, we never want to supersede them or take their place as missionaries. We don't want the believers there to become reliant on us. So we want to raise up pastors and church elders there. Next is church planting movements. If you've never heard this term before, this means, well, church planting you might be a little bit more familiar with. We want to, at a grassroots level, see churches born. And at the same time, we want to work in a strategic way where we're not just adding churches or adding believers, but we view this in a multiplication way. We want to see churches that plant churches, that plant churches, that plant churches. And we want to make disciples who make disciples who make disciples who make disciples. And so there's this aspect of multiplication rather than addition, where we are wanting to disciple believers in churches to already be thinking about how they're going to obey the Great Commission so that it can be more quickly realized that the church can spread across an entire people group. Next is unreached people groups. We've talked about this one quite a bit already. Participatory servant leadership. For us at Pioneers, this means our leaders are there for the purpose of serving their field team members. So participatory, we really believe that leadership should be field driven, meaning when there are big decisions that need to be made, we want the field to make those decisions because every field is different and unique, and we don't want us back at the Orlando base to be making those kinds of decisions when we're not the one with boots on the ground. And then servant is that factor of serving so that the team can thrive in their giftings. Next is innovation and flexibility. At Pioneers, we like to say we default to yes. If you're passionate about technology, yes, that can be used for missions. So we want to give everybody a chance. We believe God has gifted everyone uniquely and that missionaries aren't just cookie cutter. So we want to be flexible and innovating around strategies and how to use different giftings to see the gospel go forth. And so the tension though is yes to what? And our goal is to help people like you see how your passion can be aligned with God's passion. namely his name being worshipped, his gospel going forth and receiving the honor that he's due. And so, yeah, that one could definitely apply to each and every one of you. Then lastly, ethos of grace. Look, the church isn't perfect, and no person is perfect, and no missions organization is perfect either. So ethos of grace, we just know we have to grace each other. When we make mistakes, we want to cultivate a culture of respect and grace, because we realize we can do nothing apart from Jesus, like he says in John 15. And so this ethos of grace helps us live in that reality that he's the one using us to complete his work. So these are some of our numbers. We have over 3,000 members worldwide, 16 bases around the world. The Orlando base is just one of 16. We have over 300 teams on the field working in over 200 people groups, which is in just under 100 countries. And then on the left, you'll see the religious block breakdown. The red portion represents the percentage of our teams that are working among Muslims. Then our next largest sector is non-religious, then tribal, Buddhist, and Hindu. So with Pioneers, there are 3 ways that you can go with us. Our goal is to send long-term teams. We believe it just factually, it takes a while to see a church born. It doesn't usually happen that quickly. But we also know that not everybody is ready to make that sort of commitment. And so we also offer short-term, which is our Edge, and midterm option, Venture, for people who want to get their feet wet first before seeing if long-term missions is really for them. So the Edge is our summer short-term trip opportunity. Our Edge trips last between 6, 8, and 10 weeks long, with 1 week on the front and on the end for preparing and meeting your teammates, and then debriefing at the end. So the Edge trips are specifically geared for college-age students between 18 and 24 years old, and these are pre-planned trips. We have, for summer 2021, 19 different trip options available, going around the world in Asia, Europe, Africa, even the Middle East. So on an Edge trip, you'll be with a few other people who, like teammates, and then you'll go and serve a long-term team for the summer in the different ministries that they have. So some of them, or all of them, have like a unique foci. Some use adventure tourism, teaching English, children's ministry, various options, living in a tribe. There's even one specifically for people who might want to intern with us in Orlando to use their technology giftings to help us with app development. So that could be for some of you listening today. Next is our Venture option, which is our midterm one. And for Venture, this is different from Edge because it's, well, for any age, first of all, and it's fully customized, meaning you work with a coach to plan your own trip with us. You get to choose one of our 300 teams to serve, but from anywhere from 1 month up to an entire year, to build relationships, learn language, learn about ministry, and what that looks like to really help you decide if long-term missions is for you. And lastly, long-term, this is what we are all about, wanting to see long-term workers being sent out. And so one of my favorite things about when an applicant or a candidate applies to be with Pioneers is that no matter which option you choose, you are immediately assigned to a coach who walks with you through the entire process, from support raising to just being cared for and pastored and like shepherded well through the process so that you're never alone. And I really appreciated this because there's definitely struggles as you're gearing up to go overseas. And so it just was really helpful to have somebody check in on you and pray for you and just remind me of the truth when I was struggling. And so there are so many options with us, but we want to just pose the question. I want to pose the question to you now. Why not you? Why not you? Why can't you use your giftings and your passions to reach the unreached? We've learned a little bit about the biblical basis of mission and God's heart for the nations, and the task remaining, that there's still work to be done. So when I personally reached that point, I shared with you, I knew I wanted to go. I wanted to work among an unreached people group. But at the same time, I remember there was a point where I really faced some doubt, like, why? What if I fail? Or how do I know I'm really supposed to, or this is God's will for my life? And I really had an epiphany one day when reading scripture and just realizing this is God's will, that all peoples know him. And so if I am fully committed to him, and then I can trust him. Like, there's a proverb that says, as a man plans his course, the Lord determines his steps. So I can trust the Lord to lead my steps, whatever that looks like. And you can too. I recently heard a friend share with me, instead of asking, what is God's will for my life, ask, what is God's will? And then just do it. Just join him in it. So there are so many different awesome organizations out there. And if there's also different ways of participating in God's missions too. We realize not everyone is going to go, and not everyone's supposed to, and that's okay. But we are supposed to send and mobilize. We can welcome internationals among us. There's so many different internationals that live even in our Orlando area, from all over the country, unreached people groups too. And so we can welcome them here, and we can mobilize more missionaries to go. Another one of my favorite John Piper quotes is, he says, go, send, or disobey. And it doesn't really get clearer than that. So with so many awesome organizations out there, we at Pioneers realize that we are about the kingdom, but we know that we're not the kingdom. And so if anything that I've shared today is just stirring your heart and you want to get involved in missions, I would say do your research and pray and seek the Lord and look at different missions orgs. But if Pioneers is an org that you would like to continue considering working with, then we would love to talk to you. So you can email us at go@pioneers.org. And there's a real person behind that email address who will respond to you and follow up with you. And we have a whole team of people whose job is literally to just pray for you as you consider what your next steps could look like, whether that's going or staying and sending. Or if you want to just talk to me, I would love to chat with you over text, or you can call me. This is my personal cell number on the screen, and I would love to chat with you. So now I have still a few minutes. If there's, maybe like 1 minute, I guess, if there's any burning questions.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, it was just so good to hear more about Pioneers and all the different ways that people can go. And I just want to remind people that, like, there's so many opportunities out there for your skills. I think that's something that I didn't understand when I was studying computer science in school, and I felt like, how can I use this for the mission? And it's been a journey of trying to understand that. But recently I've been more involved in Upstream, which is a network of pioneers. And so this is a way that people can use their technology skills to contribute to the work among the unreached. And yeah, it's been really awesome. We've done things like Bible story apps, websites. We've done data science things. Like there's just a lot of things out there. We love working together as a community. And like you mentioned, Casey, there's the same ways that someone could go with pioneers can also be partnered with upstream. And so
Absolutely.
we have an EDGE trip coming up next summer. And so if you are really interested in using your skills for missions, you want to work together with the team, we will have a trip next summer in Orlando, and you can come down here and we will hack away all summer long. So you also can just contribute in your free time voluntarily as for people who are in professional work or other ways. There are projects that are always ongoing, and we can always use your help if you just want to contribute in that way. But come on the EDGE trip if you can. And of course, there's always long-term options with pioneers as well, and Upstream would love to help you think through that. So
Awesome.
amazing. Thank you so much, Casey. It was so awesome to hear from you and hear your story too.
Thanks so much for having me. It was really fun to get to share. Sorry for some of the technical difficulties, but
No
thanks
worries.
for sticking with me.
That is just part of the experience of the online world.
It is. Thanks for your grace, ethos of grace, I can tell.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much. And
You're
we'll
welcome.
talk to you later, Casey. And hackers, keep hacking. Bye-bye.